My coffee, thank you.
Oh, oh good. What a day.
You're welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just tired.
Just tired. Why are you tired?
Work.
Okay. Yeah. That one day.
I've actually been meaning to ask you one question.
Okay.
Okay. We all have different professions that we chose.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I've been meaning to ask, what actually inspired you to be a writer? I know why I'm asking this question.
Okay. Why?
I went online to read some of your books.
Okay.
And I noticed that your pattern of writing is unique. Like very unique.
Yeah.
And you use what they call this point of view.
Yeah.
I noticed that in a book you can write like 3-4 persons point of view and nail it.
Yeah.
So I don't get like what inspired you to be a writer first of all? Did it come to you natural? Is it something you had to learn? Is it something you had to be tutored? I don't know.
So there was something I discovered about myself when I was quite little. I think that I did that when I was going through self-awareness and learning to love myself and understand myself. It was the fact that I had a very graphic mind. I like using the word pictographic or pictographic, whatever word you could use. Meaning, when I think of things, I see pictures.
Wow.
And the truth is, I've always wanted to be able to relate that. So usually when I talk, I like giving real life examples to what I'm trying to say, to drive my point home. And I noticed that when I was in secondary school, I loved English, obviously. And I loved the idea. In fact, I was a science student and I was not supposed to read English. I was supposed to read medicine. I love science. I've always been fascinated with the human body. But then, doing chemistry classes or biology classes, I am with a novel in between my textbooks.
Oh,
Yeah, my schoolmates usually call me a social science student then because Jennifer, you always like the novel in the science class. I aced my classes and my exams, obviously, but the thing was, I just fell in love with writing and being able to pass out information the way I think it. So yeah, one time I went to school for English, but I had to like learn how to write. That's a basic thing. You actually have to learn, understand POVs, understand structural writing and all those things. But I've begun writing way before I understood all of that.
oh.
So when I understood that, it was like an added skill for me. So what I decided to do as a person was I told myself that yes, we have founding fathers that discovered a way of writing, put it out there and we follow, but I intend to create my own way of writing, and then my children's generation and your children's generation, they're going to copy my own style. Just like Shakespeare brought their own, Jenivalwrites is there too. Yeah, that's
I think I want to believe you've done that nicely, because I'm craving to hear the next chapter of the book you read to me the last time.
Okay.
Yeah, The Wrong Side of Eve's Apple.
Yeah, the book. Where's my 2,000 naira?
Yeah. Alright. You got me. Okay. You'll get it before you leave it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Oh,
so
it's okay.
So can we just get right to it? I can't
Get
wait.
right to what? Please, can you say it out loud? I don't know what you're talking about.
To chapter 1.
Okay, fine, we can get right to it. So, at the wrong side of Eve's Apple, chapter 1. Now, I would like to give you some establishing facts here. Chapter 1 is years after the prologue. Okay? Yes. And then the prologue was written in third person POV, meaning that the writer was describing the characters and their actions, right? But the chapter 1 is written in first person POV, meaning you're going to meet one character and the character is going to speak to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So So now this
Please, let it be
POV is Eve, actually. Get out.
Yes.
You don't want to see Lucas, huh?
Not yet. That guy to me.
So now your wish has been granted, and it is Eve POV. That's the first chapter.
Yes.
So now remember what I told you last time we talked about, and I said my books have the prologues, the chapters have quotes attached to them.
Yes.
So for chapter 1, the quote is the subtle act of fucking up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So, and before I begin, there's like a quote from me, personal quote from me, and that is, when you think your life is over, ask yourself why the hell you still breathing. Think about that. So now we're gonna go straight into the
all right.
Oh please,
Let's
get yourself comfortable. Let's do this. So please, you have to help me. I can't let this get out, please. Okay. He was eccentric and so fucking annoying. Why had I allowed this fool into my office again? As every excruciating second passed, the answer to that question became vaguer. Take a deep breath, Matthew. You're gonna be fine, I replied, and took a very deep drag of my cigarette. This clown was going to piss his pants in my office, and I was going to kill Rita for it. I could see how panicked he was, and I didn't give a shit. In fact, the more panicked they were, the better for me, because billing them for all they were worth became easy. Taking another drag of my cigarette, I stood up from my black leather chair and rounded the large desk to him. Resting my ass on the edge of the polished wood, I crossed my barely clad legs. Now, breathe in and breathe out. The man was frightened, and truth be told, it gave me a certain thrill. I loved seeing frightened men, and terrified politicians were just icing on the cake. As Senator Matthew followed my earlier instruction, he looked up at me with pleading eyes. Everyone, including him, knew that I was the only soul in Transvaal and damn near the whole continent adept to handling shit like his. I was the bitch who made things disappear or appear, depending on where you wanted. What the world didn't realize was how much I loved breathing this far. He steadily took in fresh air into his lungs, and I nodded at him in encouragement and approval. He wasn't going to die on me, at least not today. When I saw he was more level-headed, I crushed low and leveled my eyes with his. Now, can you tell me what happened? I asked, blowing a puff of smoke into his face. He bobbed his head obediently before confessing, "They have pictures, videos." I rolled my eyes in frustration when he broke down in tears again. God knew I didn't have time for this. Not one bit. Who has videos, Matthew? And what do they have videos of? I tried again. My patience of reading wearing thin. He was only in here because he was a crying senator, and he was pushing it past his limit. I placed my hands on his shoulders to comfort him, only for his wailing to increase in sound and grief. I sighed in desperation. Life was supposed to throw curveballs at you, and you were supposed to suck it up and move on. But apparently, there were more pussies in the world than I cared to count. Matthew, answer me. I groaned in frustration. My fingers, which were supposed to bring him comfort, began to squeeze, and the man shrieked at the sudden pain. Oh, finally, he was back to reality. Looking confused, he lifted his head to look at me. I can't stand pussies, Matthew. They have an uncanny ability to drive me nuts, I let out, matter-of-factly, answering the unspoken question his eyes had raised. He began to speak, but I cut him short with a raise of my forefinger. You have to leave, Matthew. I have other clients to attend to. This was said so calmly. I was sure the idiot didn't even understand what was going on. What? Please, he whimpered. I'll pay you whatever you need. Help me. This guy was the definition of pussy. I was so tempted to let him rot in the mess he had landed himself in. My bet was that he cheated and his wife found out, then decided to use the lady or ladies he fucked to blackmail him. I was also 101% sure he didn't even know his wife was behind it. We should serve him right. The man was nothing short but a scumbag, even for the fact that he was an old client of mine. How am I supposed to help you if you keep sulking? I asked, placing my hands on top the wood behind me and leaning against it. I'm sorry, the fool was shuddering. Great. I rolled my eyes as I pressed the sitcom to my desk. Within minutes, a voice came through. Eve, Rita, come and take this clown out of my office. The phone went dead, and seconds later, Rita walked into my office with 2 hefty men in tow. Eve, please! Just shut up, I scolded, not letting him finish whatever rubbish he was about to spill. Since you don't want to talk to me, go talk to my assistant. Maybe she'll have all the time in the world for your bullshit. Before he could respond, I pushed back his chair with the heel of my silhouette and took a deep drag of my newly lighted cigarette. The bodyguards immediately grabbed him by the arms and dragged him out of my precious leather chair. Even as he was being dragged out the door, the fool kept wailing all the way. Lord. I chuckled to myself. I didn't mind seeing men in that state. I actually felt immense pleasure knowing I could get them there. I'm so sorry, Eve, Rita began. I don't want to hear it. Go handle Matthew and bring me the details. We'll discuss your idiots later. She immediately turned around and walked out, banging the door in the process. She knew I didn't have time to attend to Matthew, yet she sent him in anyway. I wasn't apologetic for how I behaved. If anything, I reveled in it. Why shouldn't I? I owed the world nothing. Where I was, what I did, was all me. The woman I saw in the mirror every day was born from blood, gore, and pain. She had no intention of letting anybody harbor the notion that anything could be taken from her. Not her will, not her wants, and definitely not the billion-dollar company she built from freaking scratch. Everyone knew to cross me meant death, and I couldn't have it any other way. I had been torn once, from the inside out, too weak to see it before it was too late, and it had very well killed me, but no more, not ever again. I walked towards the large windows and gazed out into the buzzing streets, mentally counting down to when my sitcom would ring. All Rita really required was 5 minutes, and she'd get all the information I needed from Matthew. I was betting the story was exactly as I had deduced. I was never wrong with such matters. Except for that time you were young and dumb. I immediately banished the thought and took another deep drag from what little remained of my cigarette. How I wish Mommy was here to see you now. See what you become. It seemed like that annoying inner voice in my head was in the mood to play. But I wasn't ready for her. Not now or ever. My past was what it was. My past. And I had no joy reliving the gruesome details it entailed. Shaking my head, I took a deeper drag of the cigarette and walked to the polished counter where my mini bar was. I needed a drink.
Auntie, is you?
Thanks. I'm just tired.
Your heart could be complaining about getting weaker by the day.
This shortness of breath can be your heart warning you.
Jolie, how many times should I?
I know. Chest pains may be my heart, and I need to watch what I eat.
Unbranded cooking oils may contain high levels of trans fat and cholesterol, which clog your arteries, making it difficult for your heart to pump blood. Nowadays, it's even more important for you to embrace a healthy lifestyle and put your heart and family first. Use Power Oil. It is free of cholesterol and trans fat. Power Oil for a healthy family.
Power oil, power oil.
Pouring myself a glass of whiskey, I took it all at once, sending it straight down my throat in a burning furnace. It was at that point the phone decided to ring. I walked to the table and pressed the pick button. Yes, the voice of Rita came through the sitcom. The details have been sent to your laptop. She sounded angry, probably because I hadn't allowed her to explain herself earlier. Maybe she knew the lesson in respect, in chains of command, and definitely in attitude. Come in here, now, I bade. No, she whispered slowly. It was almost as if she was trying to be cautious, even while defiling me. Rita, I drawled, calmly daring her to disobey. The phone went dead. Next minute, she was in my office, head down, breath shallow. If she kept daring me, I would be tempted to give her what she wished for. What am I to do with you, Rita? I asked while watching her closely. Her head still down, she replied, do to me whatever you want, Eve. I chuckled. She really had it hot for me. I could play into her hands, indulge in a little mind games, but that wouldn't be a punishment. I, for one, knew exactly how to punish her. I let her stand there for some seconds, blessing her with my intense gaze before muttering, brief me. She looked up at me then, eyes wide in surprise. Go on, I urged, with a wild smirk on my lips. After a few seconds, she cleared her throat and began. Her voice gulped. He cheated. His mistress got the whole thing on cam and is blackmailing him with it. Has he paid his fee? She nodded in response and I smiled in satisfaction. I trusted Rita. She knew better she knew never to joke with my money. Good, I praised. Do you still have his wife's number? Yes, I do, she whispered. Set up a meeting for both of us. Then inform her of it. Tell her to make sure she doesn't keep me waiting, even for a microsecond. Rita's eyebrows rose in suspicion. Or was it curiosity? What are you up to, Eve? Don't worry, you see, I said, then picked up my laptop and began going through the YD files. They were overdue for my attention. When I didn't hear any movement, I raised my head from the files to find her still at the door, her lips between her teeth and her thighs clenching with brute force. She looked aroused. I could even smell it from across the room. I inwardly laughed at the irony of it. She wanted satisfaction from the one person that would never give it to her. A classic tale of a forbidden office romance. I rose from the edge of my desk and walked to my chair with my laptop in hand, ignoring her shivering form. Since she wanted to play, I might as well help her suffer. I plunged into my chair, pulled open my desk drawer and pulled out my vibrator. As I turned on the fuck toy, I glanced at her. In case you didn't get the hint, that was your cue to get out. It looked like she wanted to defy me again, and I silently dared her to. After a few minutes of her silently watching me, she turned on her heels and left, slamming the door harder than the first time. I chuckled. I had unfinished business with a long-lost relative of hers, and she was the key to my long-awaited revenge. And while we waited, I wasn't going to do anything to jeopardize my victory, even if it meant torture for both of us. With that thought in mind, I placed the vibrator to my clit. Yep, I felt that. Did you? Yeah, the end of the chapter.
Is this the same Eve from the prologue?
Yeah, it is.
She doesn't sound naive to me. This is like how many years later?
Let's say 5 years later.
Wow.
So how does she sound?
She sounds tough. She sounds in control. She sounds like she knows exactly what she's doing. And it baffles me because there's a character you introduce in Matthew, Senator.
Yeah.
The crying senator. Wow, that's crazy. Like, what kind of work does she do?
Why don't you try deducing it yourself? Let's see. From what you read, what do you think she does? Okay.
She does dirty works.
Dirty works.
Yes. Like
Try
trying to
again.
clean up
Okay. I think you're in the right
people's
path.
mess.
Yeah.
That one. And her kind of clients, wow, a senator. Like, is he a sitting senator? What even if he's not a sitting senator?